This is round 24, the fourth playoff round in the 2019 High School National Championship. Bleh, I screwed it up.
You can see that, right?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Been a long day. This is round 24, the fourth playoff round at the 2019 NAQT High School National Championship Tournament. This is a winner's bracket game between the 2 card and the 11 card. From Delaware, we have Wilmington Charter, and from Virginia, we have Thomas Jefferson Science and Tech A. Both teams are ready to go. This is toss-up 1. In this city, the homeless cross-dressing social activist Leslie Cochran ran for mayor 3 times. This seat of Travis County contains the headquarters of the Whole Foods Market. This city is nicknamed, yes,
Austin.
15, bonus.
Nice.
Blockage of oil glands in this structure can cause a chalazion for 10 points each, needing this body part that droops in a finding called ptosis.
Troops.
Lip.
The eyelid. This layer of the inner eyelid extends onto the eye itself and becomes inflamed in pink eye.
Lens, maybe?
Eyelid, not.
Answer?
No answer.
It's the conjunctiva. Blepharoplasty is a plastic surgery that removes this tissue from the eyelid. Surgery to remove it from the body is called liposuction.
Fat.
Yeah, that's 10. Toss up 2. These compounds are stable only above a critical value of their radius ratio. By performing a sum of pairwise interaction energies, one can calculate the enthalpy of formation of these compounds in terms of their Madelung constant in these. Yes.
Like crystals?
I'm sorry?
Crystals?
Neg 5. In these compounds, atoms with very different electronegativities are arranged in a crystal lattice. Table salt is an example of, for 10 points, what compounds made from charged atoms?
Ionic.
Yes. 10. Bonus. Noted. In 1969, this group split into provisional and official branches for 10 points each, leaving this paramilitary group opposed to the British rule in Northern Ireland.
IRA.
In March 1981, this provisional IRA activist started a hunger strike in Mays prison. He died 66 days later.
Sands.
The provisional IRA disarmed in the aftermath of this 1998 peace agreement that is generally considered the end of the Troubles.
Good Friday.
Toss up 30 points. Toss up 3. In one episode of this show, the characters escape a pocket universe where they were trapped in a never-ending party when they sing the David Bowie song "Under Pressure." During the show's second season, Alice is transformed into a Niffin while fighting to kill a monster known as the Beast to save Fillory. A trilogy by Lev Grossman is the big yes.
Magicians.
10 bonus.
Nice.
In 2018, a jury awarded Dwayne Johnson nearly $300 million in his lawsuit against this company. For 10 points each, named this agricultural company that ceased to exist as a separate entity in June 2018. It was ordered to pay over $2 billion in punitive damages in a related May 2019 lawsuit that claimed its products caused cancer.
Monsanto.
It's the Roundup thing.
Sure.
It's
Dow
Monsanto.
Chemical?
Monsanto.
Answer?
Monsanto.
Those lawsuits alleged this glyphosate-based Monsanto herbicide can cause non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
It's a Roundup?
Yeah.
Sure. Roundup.
In 2016, Monsanto was purchased by this German pharmaceutical company, which sells a namesake brand of aspirin.
Bayer.
Yeah, Bayer.
30. Toss up 4. A section of this novel titled Parenthesis contains chapters discussing the abstract idea and historical fact of convents. This novel's protagonist finds shelter at a convent thanks to the gardener
This is Limited Hub.
15 bonus.
Okay.
Samuel Barber's Knoxville Summer of 1915 is based on a prose work by this author. For 10 points each, this author whose novels include A Death in the Family.
Aggie.
James Agee's Let Us Now Praise Famous Men, which depicts the Dust Bowl, was a collaboration with Walker Evans, an artist in this medium.
Photography.
For the anthology film Face to Face, A.G. wrote the screenplay to a segment based on this author's story, The Bride Comes to Yellow Sky. He also wrote The Red Badge of Courage.
Crane.
30. Toss up 5. This mineral was found with hibronite in the Murchison chondrite, and it is theorized to be the first major condensate from solar gas. Podporodtia is an orange type of this mineral, which is created artificially using flame fusion in the Verneuil process. Yes.
Corundum.
15. Bonus. Yeah. The poet Lucan may have left his epic Pharsalia incomplete due to being forced to commit suicide over involvement in this event. For 10 points each, identify this plot in which a namesake senator and large group of allies plan to assassinate and replace the last Julio-Claudian emperor.
Why, like, a plot to, like, named after a dude, I think.
Answer?
The Calamine conspiracy.
The Pisonian conspiracy. The Pisonian conspiracy targeted this ruler who was in power during the Great Fire of Rome.
Nero.
This Stoic author of the satirical The Pumpkinification of Claudius was also ordered by Nero to commit suicide over the Pisonian conspiracy.
Seneca the Younger. Right?
You want to go for it?
Seneca the Younger.
That's 20.
Nice.
Toss up 6. In this province, the black woman Viola Desmond refused to leave a whites-only theater seat in 1946. After the American Revolution, thousands of black loyalists were settled in this province before resettling in Sierra Leone. In 1917, the collision of the ships Emo and Mont Blanc caused a massive... Yes?
Newfoundland.
Neg 5 caused a massive blast, leveled part of its capital. For 10 points, what Canadian maritime province was the site of the Halifax explosion? Yes.
Nova Scotia.
10. Bonus. Joe Hisaishi's score for this movie includes tracks portraying the Sea of Corruption and the Tolmekian army. For 10 points each, name this 1984 animated film in which the title princess helped save a decaying world with a toxic jungle inhabited by giant insects called Omu.
Oh my god, this... I think you're right. Go for it.
Princess Mononoke.
Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. Nausicaa's success led director Hayao Miyazaki to found this movie studio that also produced Spirited Away.
Ghibli?
Sorry?
Ghibli?
Yes. A 1986 Miyazaki film is titled for one of these structures in the sky. In 2004, he directed an adaptation of Diana Wynne Jones's book about Howl's Moving One.
Castle.
20. Toss up 7. This country's income inequality fell during a period that Robert Margot and Claudia Golden termed the Great Compression. Anna Schwartz and Milton Friedman blame. Yes.
United States.
15. Bonus. This novel's protagonist earns a life-saving medal for rescuing Applegate Skinner from drowning while working at Camp Couscous. For 10 points each, name this novel about Louis, whose muteness prompts his father to steal an instrument for him to serve as his voice.
The Heart is a Lonely Hunter?
Sure.
The Heart is a Lonely Hunter?
The Trumpet of the Swan, which is by this American author of Charlotte's Web.
E.B. White.
Wait.
Yes. To impress his love interest Serena, Louis learns to play this Stephen Foster song. It asks its title figure to wake unto me.
Oh, Susanna.
Wait, wait into
Kind of character.
something lovers.
Answer?
Oh, Susanna.
Beautiful Dreamer.
Come on, guys.
10
People
points,
do
toss up 8. This term denotes a roughly week-long period celebrated by Swedish children hopping like frogs. This period's namesake holiday is often conflated with St. John's Eve or the Feast of St. John the Baptist. Its namesake holiday is the English quarter day following Lady Day. Peter Quince, 5 Rude Mechanicals, and Puck appear in a Shakespeare play partly named for 10 points. What? Yes.
Midsummer.
10. Bonus. Since their partition in 1947, Pakistan and India have fought 4 wars over control of this territory. For 10 points each, what territory whose namesake valley is in the Himalayas forms an Indian state along with Jammu?
Kashmir.
Pakistan lost the 1973 war with India, leading to the independence of this nation, formerly known as East Pakistan.
Yeah.
Bangladesh.
Currently, Pakistan and Iran are engaged in a proxy war against separatists from the southwestern province of Pakistan. It contains the cities of Quetta and Gwadar.
Yeah.
This province.
Province of Pakistan. I don't know any province.
Answer?
No answer.
Baluchistan, 20 points, toss up 9. Hank Greenspun accused this man of being a homosexual in articles published in the Las Vegas Sun. The Tidings Committee concluded that this man's allegation, yes,
McCarthy.
15, bonus. Administering this drug to patients with protein C deficiency can cause skin necrosis. For 10 points each, name this drug that inhibits vitamin K epoxide reductase. It was originally developed as a rat poison.
Oh, rat poison.
Yes.
Answer?
Anthrax.
Warfarin. Warfarin works to block this process in which blood thickens to stop bleeding. Hemophilia patients lack factors necessary for this process.
Clotting.
Yes. Warfarin overdose can be reversed by giving the patient the fresh frozen form of this substance, the liquid component of blood.
Plasma.
That's 20. Toss up 10. The oldest known image of this figure is in the Codex Escalada, a text found in 1995. The Nikon Mopoa contains the earliest known description of this figure, who was first encountered on the hill of Tepeyac. This apparition's presence was signified by blooming roses, which were given to Bishop Zumarraga in the cloak of Juan Diego. For 10, yes,
Virgin of Guadalupe.
10. Bonus. This country contains Gangkar Puensum, thought to be the highest unclimbed mountain on Earth. For 10 points each, name this landlocked Asian country whose capital is Thimphu.
Yeah, right.
Bhutan.
Bhutan.
The ruler of Bhutan is known as the Druk Gyalpo, which translates as a king named for these mythical creatures, one of which appears on Bhutan's national flag.
Dragon.
In the 1970s, Bhutan's king replaced gross national product as a measurement of the country's economic development with this other gross national metric.
Happiness.
Gross happiness.
Yes, that's 30. Toss up 11. 21 beta hydroxylase deficiency causes a congenital hyperplasia of this organ, which can lead to intersex people. A pheochromocytoma is a tumor of this organ's chromaffin cells. Yes?
Is this the lungs?
Neg 5. Pituitary overactivity causes Cushing's disease, in which this organ makes too much cortisol. Catecholamines secreted by this organ's medulla mediate the sympathetic nervous response. For 10 points, name these glands that secrete epinephrine. Yes.
Renal.
10.
Sorry.
This instrument resembles regional folk instruments like the bodhran with the addition of objects called zills. For 10 points each, name this frame drum percussion instrument whose zills vibrate quickly when a player executes a thumb roll.
Oh, it's like Australia, like
Did we do?
yeah.
Didgeridoo?
Tambourine. Zills, the jingling metallic discs on the tambourine, are closely related to these handheld instruments often played by belly dancers.
Drums.
Yeah,
Sure. Ben, defer.
Casting that.
Finger cymbals. This composer used a tambourine in his 1787 Deutsche Tanza. He also wrote the string serenade on a kleine Nacht music.
Mozart.
10. Toss up 12. A character in this novel says what goes on in the twisted, tortuous minds of women would baffle anyone. This novel's title character was Jack Favel's cousin. This novel's narrator, yes,
Jack Favel is
time,
Three
Nick 5.
Musketeers.
This novel's narrator is tricked into wearing a replica of a dress from a portrait by the housekeeper, Mrs. Danvers, who is obsessed with Maxim de Winter's first wife. The Cornish estate of Manderley is the setting of, for 10 points, what Daphne du Maurier novel? Yes.
Rebecca?
10. Bonus. Near the end of this play, Béranger stares into a mirror and tries to will himself to transform. For 10 points each, name this absurdist 1959 play in which the inhabitants of a French village turn into wild animals in an allegory of the rise and acceptance of fascism.
Rhinoceros.
Which is by this French-Romanian playwright of the Ball
Ionesco.
Soprano. Yes. In this 1962 Ionesco drama, Béranger reappears as a cruel, dying monarch accompanied by his queens, Marie and
Is it
Marguerite.
Exit the King? I think so, right?
Sure.
Exit the King?
30.
Yes.
And that's the half.
Four toss-ups.
Yeah, sorry about the nags. So,
Five, four, three, or four.
Chromafin refers to lots of things.
I have TJ 290, Wilmington 90.
Okay,
How many left?
but before we start talking amongst ourselves, I want to make sure we're all clear on the facts of the protest so I can
Yeah.
call it into the control room, okay?
Yeah, so I said crystal.
You said crystal. My answer line says ionic compounds accept ionic solids or ionic crystals, do not accept or prompt on solids or crystals by themselves.
That's
So-
rough, yeah.
So I will call into the control line,
Okay.
control room, and have them review it. You buzzed at
After Madelon, a few
constant.
words after
Yeah,
Madelon. Can you
buzzed
read through that
around
sentence
Madelon
again?
Constant, which would be in power. That's all we need
Okay,
to know,
right.
okay?
Oh, yeah.
Do you agree with that fact? He buzzed at Madelon Constant, said crystal was negged, and that the facts of the protester is that he is saying he should have been prompted on crystal?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, I will call that into the
Clinch.
control room.
Boys, this is fun.
That's a 90 point.
Best of luck to both teams. Half the packet down, half the packet to go. All right. 290, 95? Good luck, everyone. Get this. There we go. At the half, the score is 290 for Thomas Jefferson A, 95 for Wilmington Charter, and this is toss-up 13.
on, guys.
This man ordered the execution of Arnold of Brescia after suppressing the Commune of Rome. This man ended a few... Yes,
Frederick Barbarossa.
15 bonus. Alan Greenspan deemed this initiative unbelievably stupid when it was first proposed. For 10 points each, named this White House initiative to combat the 1970s economic crisis. Its proponents wore red buttons with this initiative's three-letter acronym,
Whip inflation now. Whip inflation now. Whip inflation now.
which was one of many political missteps by this Republican president who was not elected to either the office of vice president or president.
Ford.
Yes, the economic crisis prompted Ford to deny the city's pleas for a bailout in 1975, prompting a newspaper here to run the iconic headline, Ford to City, drop dead.
New York.
Yeah, NYC.
I'm sorry?
New York City.
Yes, okay, 30. Toss-up 14. This body's widest ring, the LaSalle ring, also contains this body's Arago ring. This planet's third largest moon has the most eccentric lunar orbit in the solar system. The Scooter, a fast moon... Yes,
Neptune.
15. Bonus. For 10 points each, answer the following about unusual symbols used in the International Phonetic Alphabet. In IPA, a backwards, upside-down lowercase e represents this unrounded vowel sound, the initial sound in the word about.
Schwa, right? Sure. Schwa.
A symbol representing a backwards dotless question mark represents this type of stop, a frequent substitute for voiceless dental stops in Cockney English pronunciations of words like better.
That's only not
Glottal.
Yes, a lowercase n with a tail represents the nasal sound commonly made in English words where this consonant directly follows n.
G, maybe?
Consonant.
G, probably, right?
G.
G.
30. Toss at 15. A man in this story plans to wear a cast so he will not be expected to remove the chains from his tires. This story begins as its main character hears the sound pocketa made by an engine after a commander declares that we're going through. The title character escapes shopping with his wife by daydreaming of being a surgeon and yes.
Secret Life of Walter Mitty.
10. Bonus. According to a namesake set of rules, most ammonium salts have this property with respect to water. For 10 points each, name this ability of a compound to form a certain type of homogeneous mixture.
Soluble.
Yeah, I can take that. There are 4 polyatomic anions whose inorganic salts are almost universally soluble: chlorate, perchlorate, acetate, and this other ion. Answer? Nitrate. When not mixed with one of those 4 ions, salts of this divalent cation are almost universally insoluble. This element's tendency to exist in the +2 oxidation state rather than the expected +4 is due to the inert pair effect.
Titanium, maybe. No.
Answer?
Titanium.
Lead. 10 points, toss-up 16. The first 2 iterations of this event were held in 1970 at the U.S. Grand Hotel and featured editor Forrest J. Ackerman as a special guest. The Eisner Awards are presented at this yearly event. In 2011, Andrew Garfield read a heartfelt letter during this event while disguised as a Spider-Man fan attending a celebrity panel. Yes.
Comic-Con?
10. Bonus. For 10 points each, answer the following about Thomas Sankara. Sankara was a Marxist revolutionary who enacted progressive reforms as president of this African country until he was overthrown and killed in a 1987 coup.
I think it's Sierra Leone.
Answer?
Sierra Leone.
Burkina Faso. Sankara changed the name of the country to Burkina Faso from a colonial name that referenced the upper portion of this river dammed at Akosombo.
Volta.
Supporters described Sankara as the African version of this associate of Fidel Castro. A photo of this man by Alberto Corda helped him become a counterculture icon.
Batista.
I'm sorry?
Wait, Che Guevara. So that is 10 points, toss-up 17. Just outside this city, private developers are building Kanza Techno City, a technology park. This city's Kibera slum is Africa's...
Oh, Nairobi.
That is 15, bonus. This river's basin was the home of the Sauk people, who migrated away from it under pressure from the Iroquois. For 10 points each, identify this river, whose namesake Seaway allows ships to travel from the Atlantic Ocean to the Great Lakes.
St. Lawrence. St. Lawrence.
St. Lawrence.
The first European to encounter the Sauk may have been this French explorer who founded Quebec and participated in the Huron War efforts against the Iroquois.
Is it Hudson?
Cartier.
Oh, yeah, defer.
Cartier.
I'm sorry?
Cartier.
Champlain. This Michigan city's name may derive from the Ojibwe word for where the Sauk lived. It shares its name with a bay that separates Michigan's thumb from the rest of the state.
Oh, Mackinac, right? Is it Mackinac? Sure. Mackinac?
Saginaw. 10
Oh.
points, toss-up 18. In one tale, this mythical figure's legs are made thin when multiple pots of food finish cooking simultaneously. This figure poured water on a large leaf to convince a nest of hornets it was raining and they should hide in a calabash. Yes.
Anansi?
I'm sorry?
Anansi?
15,
Nice.
bonus. For 10 points each, answer the following about architectural historian Vincent Scully. Scully taught at this university where Eero Saarinen designed Ingalls Rink and is often compared, where it's often compared to a whale.
Yale.
Scully theorized that this civilization used curved columns to emphasize the weight of roofs. That use of curvature was especially prevalent in the civilization's Doric columns.
Doric columns.
Greeks.
Oh, Greek.
Defer.
Greek.
Scully criticized the demolition of the original version of this Scully criticized the demolition of the original version of this building located beneath Madison Square Garden in Manhattan.
Train station.
Yeah, it's Penn Station.
Penn Station.
That's 30. Toss-up 19. A half-eaten egg sits next to a spread-eagled man in pink in this painter's The Land of Cockaigne. This artist showed a fat man balancing a pie on his head while riding a barrel in the fight between Carnival and Lent. A foreground plowman in a painting attributed to this man fails to notice the splash made by the... yes.
We'll go to the auto.
10, bonus. For 10 points each, answer the following about a 2004 NBA brawl nicknamed the Malice at the Palace. The brawl occurred at the Palace of Auburn Hills, the former home of this Michigan-based team whose fans fought with members of the Indiana Pacers.
Pistons.
Yes, this Pacer was suspended for the rest of the season following the brawl. In 2011, while with the Lakers, he changed his name in order to inspire and bring youth together all around the world.
Artest, yeah. Ron
Yeah,
Artest.
the brawl broke out following a foul and shoving match involving Artest and this Pistons player. This man and Dikembe Mutombo are the only players to win 4 Defensive Player of the Year awards.
Ben Wallace.
That's 30, toss-up 20. This effect's coefficient equals -1 over particle density times E. In semiconductors, this effect can be used to check if charge is carried by electrons or holes. This effect arises because the... yes.
Hall effect?
15, bonus. In this effect, the stopping voltage grows linearly with frequency above a threshold frequency. For 10 points each, name this effect in which electrons are released when light shines on a material.
Photoelectric effect.
If stopping voltage is plotted on the y-axis against frequency on the x-axis, the slope of the resulting line will be a quotient of 2 fundamental constants. Give both constants in the correct order.
Ooh, it's ENC. I'm pretty sure it's ENC.
Which one?
ENC.
Answer?
ENC.
I'm sorry?
ENC.
No, it's Planck's constant over the elementary charge. The y-intercept in that plot is the negative of this minimum energy needed to liberate an electron from a solid.
Work function.
Yeah, it's 20. Toss up 21. Some of this stuff is given to a turban-wearing Malay sailor to whom a book's narrator quotes the Iliad. A book partly titled by one name for this stuff and written in what its author called impassioned prose describes how it produced an upheaving of the inner spirit and a section on its pleasures. For 10 points, name this substance, an addiction to which is detailed in a book of... yes.
Opium?
10. Bonus? F. Scott Fitzgerald once claimed he would have rather written this novel than any of his own. For 10 points each, name this novel in which the title Italian Expatriate is tasked with Charles Gould with transporting a great deal of silver out of the fictional country of Costaguana.
This is Nostromo?
I trust you. Go for it.
Nostromo?
Yes, this author of Heart of Darkness wrote Nostromo.
So Conrad.
Yes, Conrad collaborated on 3 novels, including 1901's The Inheritors, with this British modernist who wrote the Parade's End novels.
Parades and this is the Good Soldier. Who wrote the Good
I
Soldier?
don't- I
Answer?
Ford.
Yes,
Nice.
30. Toss up 22. The radical Taborites were among this man's followers who were targeted. Yes.
John Hughes.
15. Bonus. The New York Times proclaimed that the 2018 elections in this country produced the first populist government in Western European history. For 10 points each, what country was led for most of the early 2000s by Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi?
Italy.
This current Italian Prime Minister was a law professor with no political experience before being elected as part of a coalition government.
Oh my goodness. You should know this.
Answer?
Moscone.
Conte's coalition
Yeah.
government includes both the Conservative League Party and this populist movement founded by comedian Beppe Grillo.
5 star.
That's 20. 20. Toss-up 23. This group's staff was accused of patronizing African prostitutes in a 2018 Victoria Derbyshire report. Its current international president is Canada's Joanne Liu. A facility run by this organization in Ad-Dole was destroyed in an October 2018 attack during a series of targeted airstrikes in Yemen. The 2010 Haitian earthquake damaged 3 facilities for 10 points. What NGO that provides, yes,
Doctors Without Borders.
10 bonus. This man insisted that good times are just around the corner in 1930, despite the continual worsening of the Great Depression. For 10 points each, named this first Native American to become U.S. Vice President.
Curtis. I think Curtis. Curtis?
Curtis served under the single-term president during whose
Hoover.
administration the Great Depression
Hoover.
began.
Hoover.
Yes, Curtis was the first man elected to the U.S. Senate from Kansas by popular vote until this under this 1913 constitutional amendment.
17th, right? Yes. 17th.
30. Toss up the last. When an L2 penalty is used in this process, the result is called Tikhonov regularization, or the ridge version of this process. In one form of this process, the matrix X transpose X inverse X transpose is called the hat matrix. By the, yes?
Regression.
15. Bonus.
It's okay. It's okay.
That was well timed. Bonus, pencil and paper ready. Kim has twice as many dimes as quarters. For 10 points each. In cents, what is the total value of her collection if she has 6 coins in all, each of which is a dime or quarter?
4, 2. So 40 plus 50, 90.
90.
Yes. What is the smallest positive whole number of dollars that could be evenly exchanged for dimes and quarters while retaining the 2-to-1 ratio?
So also 2.
Answer?
2.
9. Anne has twice as many quarters as dimes. If Anne and Kim have the same total number of coins, what is the ratio of the value of Anne's collection to the value of Kim's collection? You have 10 seconds.
What?
Answer?
3 to 4.
No, 4 to 3, the other direction. So 10 points, and that's the game. We'll get a final score. 10 points. That was power. Final score is 595 for Thomas Jefferson, 205 for Wilmington Charter. Excellent game, both sides.